Hello, Internet. If you're listening to this, it means that you're probably a fan of horror, in which case good for you, and you stumbled upon this podcast. My name is Z.C. Krol. I am a horror writer in the Cleveland, Ohio area. I have written a short novel on Amazon called Disseverment, which you can get in paperback, and it's also for Kindle. Yeah, I can tell you more about that later. But I'm a huge fan of horror movies. I'm currently watching The Dentist from 1996 on Tubi. I just have it playing in the background while I talk to you fine people. I've seen The Dentist before. It's been a while. I'd love to know if you guys have seen it. It's a trip. It's in the same kind of VHS 90s sling of movies like Ice Cream Man and Dr. Giggles and just all those leprechauns and puppet masters. I know I talked about these in the last episode. I don't know if you happen to have listened to it or not. But that decade of just 90s VHSs, I love that era. So that's why I decided to throw The Dentist on. Okay. So anyway, I'm a horror writer. I have the short novel on Amazon called Disseverment. I can read you a synopsis. When Tyler receives a mysterious letter in the mail from a man claiming to be his stepfather, he is suddenly plunged back into the nightmares of his past and has to make an important decision that will change him forever. Disseverment is a psychological horror story not for the squeamish. So I wrote this right as the pandemic was starting, which wasn't a great time, obviously. It was a very dark and depressing and unsure, it was just kind of scary. And as I've mentioned before, I've been a lifelong fan of horror, and I've been writing horror my entire life. And there's something about 2020, I was just like, I'm going to write something really just brutal and scary and, that has like an emotional core to it. And that kind of stays in your head after you read it. And, the responses to it have been really awesome, and I'm really grateful for it. So yeah, check that out. I guess I just did a plug for my own, I did an ad for my own work here. Maybe I should have done that differently. I could have made it an official ad and made it not sound here. Here, we'll try this. Hey guys, this is Z.C. Kroll. I'm a horror writer from the Cleveland, Ohio area. I've written a short horror novel called Disseverment, which is available on Amazon and paperback, or you can get it for Kindle. Quick synopsis: when Tyler receives a mysterious letter in the mail from a man claiming to be a stepfather, he is suddenly plunged back into the nightmares of his past and has to make an important decision that will change him forever. Disseverment is a psychological horror story not for the squeamish. Hang on, is that any better? I feel like that captures the tone of the story really well. I should do that with, hang on. Let me do it with, reviews. Here, I'll read some of the reviews on here. Alright. Absolutely disturbing. Wait, hang on. Absolutely disturbing. This book really packs a punch for a quick read. It is not for the faint of heart and or stomach. Hang on. I'm trying to find, the idea. Never mind. So that aside, I'm just here. The whole premise of this podcast is just for me to talk to you and to talk about my love for all things horror, whether that be movies or books. I'm usually reading horror all the time if I'm not watching horror movies, horror comics. I love, Walking Dead. I was a huge fan of during its run. The comic, in the show. And, I'll frequently be reading something by either Stephen King or Dean Koontz or Clive Barker or some other writers that, I've given a shot over the years that I hadn't really heard of, and I ended up falling in love with their work for various reasons. So there's a guy named, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of this writer named Richard Lehman, but he is an outrageous kind of splatterpunk writer who, I just gave him a try, and I didn't realize he had such a following until, I got on the internet. And his stuff is just so wild and crazy, and I didn't even know that you could do... Because Stephen King is one thing, and as far as, the content, but then you read a guy like Richard Lehman, and it's like, whoa. I didn't even know you could do this. So that's... one part inspiring and another part an education in different styles for myself, and so that's just some background into what I read and what I am into. I love the classic stuff too. I read Lovecraft and Edgar Allan Poe, and I've tried to read Dracula. I've gotten halfway through it. I love the films, like some of the, the classic film adaptations, but I've not gotten through it. I have a couple buddies who have read it who said that it's definitely worth going through it, but I've kind of been halfway through, and it's, kind of a challenging read, But yeah, I love horror movies. Which is going to be the topic tonight. I know I rambled last time, just like I'm doing now, just about, my writing process and, why I love certain movies and, the artistry behind it and, why I love them. And first of all, I think I was a little unclear. I kind of made a joke about, the blood and guts aspect of, that's not necessarily why I like it, but I think there is something to be said about appreciating the artistry that goes into that stuff in terms of, you look at, Tom Savini or Rick Baker, and you see their work, and it's not, stuff that's pretty to look at, but it's also art, and they are artists, and they've created things that are effective and cause a response out of you, and which is what art is supposed to do. And so there's that aspect to it that I do appreciate. And that's not to say there are fans of horror out there that like that stuff, not even for those reasons, which, that's their own thing. But I also, I look at that stuff and I get a huge kick out of it just for the artistry and the talent that is involved in putting that stuff together, And that's the same with writing too. I'll read something that's not necessarily to my taste, but I'll appreciate the the artistry that went into it, as far as like man, there's some shit here that I couldn't write. Like, this is way beyond something that I would be comfortable talking about. It's like really daring and ballsy, and it's just like I couldn't, like, kudos to this writer. Like, he's getting the effect out of me, and like it's so I appreciate that too. So anyway, I figured tonight, it's Sunday. I don't have anything going on. I'm kind of procrastinating. I'm editing my novel that I'm going to be publishing. I'm not really, like, I'm going to get into it more as the weeks go on, just kind of making announcements and stuff, but I've written a novel, and I'm kind of giving it one last edit, and I'll be publishing it here, and I'm super excited to tell you about it, but the editing process, this final draft process is grueling, and I'm so excited to get it out there and just share it with everyone and get everyone's, like, feedback and, like, hear everyone's interpretations of it and stuff, whether it's good or bad. That I just want it to be done now. So I'm getting frustrated and I'm procrastinating. So I thought it would be fun, to do another one of these. I got some kind words about the last episode. And again, I think I mentioned like 40 times last time that this is not like a formal like podcast. I'm not like monetizing this. I'm not trying to like make it big or be like a famous podcaster. I think I mentioned Horror Dads last time. Those guys happen to be buddies of mine, John and Jamie. Hi, John and Jamie. Horror Dads is one of my favorite podcasts, and I'm not trying to be anything like that. I'm sitting here hanging out while I'm procrastinating from finishing my final draft. So, by all means, don't. I want you to sit back and fold your laundry and paint your nails and I don't know, watch something on your phone, or I don't know, scroll through Instagram and just listen to me babbling about junk. Not junk, because I do have a topic for tonight. So since I have claimed to be such a horror movie buff, and I am a freak about it, as well as writing, and I kind of hinted at my tastes, what I'm into, and things that inspire me as a writer. I thought I'd tell you as far as movies, and I'll do more of these lists as time goes on, because I'm one of those people that I love lists. I'm always making lists in my head. I don't know why. I love top 10 lists. I always loved that about David Letterman. So this, to get a feel for my tastes, if you're interested, and by all means, if this is not interesting to you, you can shut this off and move on with your life. I picked a list of what I believe these to be the greatest horror movies ever made, and I picked 13 of them. So I picked 13 because, and I think I'll keep doing this. I want to know if you guys are into this idea. I'm going to do top 13 lists of various things. And I'll keep it at 13 because 13 is, 13, unlucky number. And I was coming up with this list of what I believe to be the best horror movies ever made. And I had my 10, and then I kept thinking of another one, and then another one. I'm like, God damn it. it wasn't an easy list to come up with. I don't even know why I did it. Well, I told you it's because, I want you to know my tastes more, and maybe if you read my short novel, and then the novel that I'm going to be coming out with here in a couple months, maybe if you hear this list, you might understand, like, how my brain works when it comes to my writing, and like why I write about the stuff that I do. So anyway, I have a list of the 13 greatest horror movies ever made. Now, this list is this is my opinion. Okay, let's start there. This is based on not the movies that... These are not my favorite 13 horror movies. These are what I believe are the 13 best horror movies ever. So the difference there being, like, I can see these movies as works of art that go beyond the enjoyment, fun, comfy, cozy factor. And I see them more as, not just fun, but like challenging, like artistic pieces of art. Artistic pieces of art? Did I just say that? This art is very artistic. No, but this is, like, for lack of a better word, these are the artsy fartsy ones. Okay, so I'll make another list of, like, my 13 favorite ones that are, like, the comfy cozy. I can watch them anytime. So I'll give those ones at a future time if you're interested. If you had fun with this, I can do that down the road. But yes, I'm going to give you the top 13 greatest horror movies ever made. And yeah, let's get started here. So coming in at number 13 is a movie. I don't know if everyone has seen this, but I've talked to a couple people, particularly John and Jamie from Horror Dads, which of course they've seen this because they appreciate this kind of stuff too, from the 70s. But I have loved this movie since I was a little kid. It just blows me away every time I watch it. It still scares the hell out of me. And that is Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1978. This is the remake of the older movie from 1956, which that is based on the novel The Body Snatchers by Jack Finney. But number 13 on this list is the 1978 remake, directed by Philip Kaufman. And this thing is... you wouldn't think if you saw it, if you looked at it, that you'd be freaked out by it or affected by it, but I think if you dig into it and really get absorbed by it, if you let yourself be absorbed by the story and really pay attention to the shots and the story and the dialogue, and let yourself get immersed into it, I think you'll find that it's like one of the most terrifying movies and endings ever. And one of the best casts ever. Donald Sutherland, Brooke Adams, Jeff Goldblum, which is this is one of his earlier roles because, this was 1978. Leonard Nimoy is in this movie. And, everybody's just fantastic. Everybody's believable. This was kind of the decade where performances from actors were they were playing more realistic. Like, if you notice in the 50s and 60s, actors were, in scenes were talking to each other more in like a stage way. Like, honey, what are you doing with that? What are you doing with that glass? Are you gonna fill it up, or? It's a bad example. I don't know. But then like the 70s is where you get like De Niro and Pacino, and like they start acting like real people in the real world. So I feel like this version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, it makes the novel and the original one. It seems like it drives the point of that story into reality better than the book and the original movie did. Yeah, it's just a frightening movie. And I can do deep dives, in future episodes just for the sake of time, because we have a list to get through here. But I can tell you about my love for that movie and just the score and specific scenes, and just do like a breakdown of specific movies, if that interests anybody. But yeah, that is number 13. Now, number 12. I'm gonna put it in here so we can just so I can look at the some of the facts about it while I talk to you. Number 12 here. Interestingly enough, it's got one of the same actors in it. And I'm doing this in order, by the way. These are my top 13 in order. So when I get up to one, number one will be what I believe is the greatest horror movie of all time. And I told you I procrastinate, especially when it comes to finishing this final draft of my novel. So I take these lists very seriously, and I have to do a lot of thinking. So I might change this list in like a few months. I might revisit this. Maybe I'll do like a follow-up episode where I'm just kind of like, no, number 4 should have been 8, and 8 should have been 12, and I don't know. Maybe I'll try something like that. But I feel pretty good about this list, guys. I'm just going to throw that out there. I don't know. Anywho, number 12 is not only one of the best horror movies ever made. This is one of my favorite horror movies. This is actually one of my favorite horror movies, one of my favorite movies of all time. And this is from 1986. This is David Cronenberg's The Fly, which is a remake of the old Vincent Price film. A couple of my friends know this about me, about just my obsession with this film ever since I was a little kid, just like the Invasion of the Body Snatchers remake. Jeff Goldblum, I've realized in recent years, is one of my favorite actors, and his performance in this movie is unbelievable. Like, you think that he's like a funny guy, and he's very charismatic. He's very like, he doesn't seem like any human being you've ever met. If you look at his interviews with like Conan O'Brien and stuff, and just as a general way that he carries himself, you forget that he's like a real person, and that he's an actor who like has a craft. So like when you see this movie, he's so good in it. It's so emotional. The chemistry between him and Gina Davis in this is maybe, I think this might be the most romantic horror movie I've ever seen to this day. I think their chemistry is one of the best chemistries of a couple I've seen in a movie. I think they were dating at the time. I don't remember. They were either dating at the time of this movie, or they started dating after this movie because they had chemistry in real life on this, like while filming. I don't remember. And I think they even got married and eventually got divorced. But they did like 3 or 4 movies together. I know they did Earth Girls Are Easy. They did think she was in Transylvania 6-5000. What else did they do together? I don't know. So this movie is, first of all, it's scary as hell. Watching what he goes through, he goes into this. He invents a teleportation device. Between he invents the technology between these pods, and he messes up by teleporting with a fly. Do you want me to tell you the whole movie? I can do that. No, I'm not going to do that. But anyway, what you see him go through, like physically and emotionally, it feels so real. And the makeup is so good. And her emotions, seeing him, and her, like, genuinely wanting to help him. And you see on her face, like, how much she's fallen in love with him. And but, like, she's, like, pities him. It's just, like, everything feels so real. I don't know. It's just, like, one of those, because the acting is so good, it raises the horror aspect a little bit more, because you're like, holy shit, these people are really going through this. And I think that's what horror is supposed to do. Like that you can't be afraid of stuff if you don't feel that the person's really being threatened by something, So that's number 12. That's one of my favorite movies ever, The Fly. See it if you haven't. I don't even want to hear from you. I don't want you listening to this. Stop right now if you haven't seen it, and then come back. I'm just kidding, but I love it. Number 11. Let me type this in here. And I don't know why 13 and 12, they just both happen to have Jeff Goldblum in them. That wasn't intentional. It just happened to be that way. Number 11 is a comedy. I mean, it's funny, but it's also scary as hell, and that is 1981's An American Werewolf in London, directed by John Landis. Have you seen this movie, guys? How many times have you seen it? Have you seen it at least 10 times in your life by now? I hope. First of all, it's so quotable. It's so funny. It's so, like, it feels like, it's got a lot of, it's got so much, like, personality in it. Like, it feels like it was made by people who have personalities. Like, the sense of humor is very, like, it feels like the sense of humor that you have with your friends. The way that the two friends talk to each other at the beginning, they talk like regular people would. And they're played by David Naughton and Griffin Dunne. Both terrific actors in this. Griffin Dunne in particular as Jack, when you see him, I mean, it's so weird how this movie is horrific. Like, his death at the beginning, this isn't a spoiler, it happens like in the first 10 minutes, but like, his death is so convincing and just brutal, and then it just kind of jumps to comedy, and I don't know, it's a very unique movie. There's nothing, I can't really think of anything else like it, really, in terms of horror comedies, because when you think of horror comedies, like, I think of, like Shaun of the Dead and Beetlejuice and Zombieland, those classics. And, like, they're funny as hell, but they're not, like, they're not, like, the scares aren't, like, genuinely scary. I'm trying to think of something that's like that. I know there's got to be something. Let me know if you think of anything. But yeah, American Werewolf in London is just... And just the directing, the makeup, guys. Have you... I still think there's never been anything like it in terms of the werewolf transformation scene that David Naughton goes through. It just looks... I don't know. I still think it looks amazing. Do you guys feel the same way? I mean, you can tell that it's fake. But in the same way that, like, Avatar, you can see that it's fake, but you can still be blown away by it, you know. So that is number 12. Should I speed this up? Is this, are you guys bored? You know, is this too much of a deep dive? Am I not talking enough about this stuff? You know, give me some feedback, because I'll do more of these lists, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. Okay, no, that was number 11. I apologize. Okay. All right, moving on to number 10. Okay, so this one, I also saw this when I was too young, and I didn't realize it until I watched it again recently. And that is Black Christmas from 1974. This was directed by Bob Clark, who also directed A Christmas Story, which I've actually never seen. A lot of people don't believe that when I tell them that I've never seen A Christmas Story. And it's like, every Christmas they show that movie for 24 hours. Is it on TNT, I think? So every year I'm just like, well, they show it all day, so eventually I'm going to see it. And I think I've probably seen the whole thing by now. Just pieces and parts of it. Because, like, I saw, like, 1 minute of it in 2016, and then I saw another minute of it in 2017, and so on. So I probably have seen the whole thing. But I just kind of got, like, one puzzle piece at a time. So I'm sure it's lovely, but I don't know. I never got around to it. I've never seen The Sound of Music. I've never seen Mary Poppins. But I'll tell you what I have seen. Okay, I've seen Killjoy. I've seen Puppet Master. And I've seen Ice Cream Man. Okay, so you need to leave me alone, is what I'm saying. Okay? I'll see Sound of Music if you see Killjoy. How does that sound? My phone's ringing right now, but I'm not going to answer it. It says Scam Likely. I don't know who that is. Who names their kids Scam Likely? I'm sorry. Last dad joke of the night. Black Christmas came out in 1974. It was directed by Bob Clark. This movie is terrifying. I should make note that on this list, these are movies that are artistic masterpieces, but also are still scary. So when I say Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and I say The Fly, and I say American Werewolf in London, and now I say Black Christmas, and the rest of this list, I think these movies are still terrifying to this day. Regardless of the time they were made, regardless of how many times I've seen them, because I've seen them a lot, they still freak me out. That only more to me says how great they are. Black Christmas, this came out before Halloween. This was 4 years before Halloween. A lot of people say that Halloween didn't necessarily rip this off, but it was a lot to this movie in terms of the killer, the holiday kind of, not gimmick, that's probably not a good word, but, you know, just kind of like the template, like this kind of created a template the same way that Texas Chainsaw did or Psycho did with, like, you know, the slashers. This kind of, you know, started the concept of the holiday slashers that led into Halloween and then Friday the 13th and then April Fool's Day and not even, you know, not holidays, but just major days on the calendar days, you know, prom night, you know, My Bloody Valentine, So, this movie was a trendsetter. It's genuinely creepy. The voice on the telephone, Billy on the telephone, it's so not what you would expect from a 1974 movie. He is incredibly... He doesn't... you have to watch it for yourself to, like, kind of... it's hard to explain. He's, like, different people. He is saying the most profane stuff for the time. He's saying... it's just, like, horrific. And I don't think anyone who saw it in the theater, like, knew how to respond to it at the time. It was just such a big leap. It probably was such a big leap forward that people are just like, what the hell is this, And that's very admirable. And I can see, why it had such an effect on people back in the day. And some of the imagery is just, like, terrifying. Margot Kidder is just hilarious in this movie. She plays Barb. Olivia Hussey, I don't know how old she was in this, but her performance is so good. I think she was 22 in this, and she's just, like, gorgeous. Almost, like, to a distracting level. And she's just a fantastic actress in the movie. Yeah, it's just... And it deals with, like, really complicated subject matters. Yeah, it's just... I still think it's just one of the all-time greats. In fact, I think it's the 10th all-time great. That's why I put it on the list. Number 9. I actually just watched this last night. I wanted to confirm my thoughts on this, because I had it at number 9. And, as I said, I was taking this list seriously, and I'm like, I put it at number 9. I'm like, do I want this to be number 9? Because I feel like it's number 9. I'm like, I'm going to watch it, because it's Saturday, number 1. And number 2, I can do whatever I want, because this is America. And if I want to watch it, I will. No, I'm just kidding. So I popped it in, and I watched it, and I was just as blown away again as I was the other times I've seen it. Every time I watch it, it just knocks my pants off. And that is Suspiria from 1977, directed by Dario Argento. I know some people who have never heard of this movie. I know some people who have heard of it but have never seen it. And I'm not going to say shame on you, because I say stuff like that, and I'm only kidding. Because there's so much stuff out there. You can't see it all. I understand that. There's stuff, there's stuff I haven't seen that, horror that I haven't seen, that I need to, and read that I need to. But Suspiria is one of those films that I think it's safe to say people recognize it as a classic now, but I think it took some time. There was a period where maybe not, it wasn't as mainstream to recognize it as a classic. But yeah, if you appreciate, like, if you're one of those artsy fartsy film people, who are not just into, like a popcorn flick, if you actually want to, like, admire, like, the artistry that goes into it, like the cinematography and, like, the colors and, like, the different shots and lighting choices and wardrobe and like the film stock and all that nerdy stuff that you love about cinema, like I do. Like, I don't know, like, that much in depth about it, but, like, recognizing when something is really good like that, when you're a nerd for that stuff. This is, like, one of the best horror movies for that. Everything just every shot looks like it should be, like, framed on your wall. It's very, like, it seems like a Stanley Kubrick movie in some shots. Like, the lighting looks very Kubrickian, as they say. Just a fantastic movie. It's got its problems. It's not a perfect horror movie. what it has in like visually. I think it kind of lacks in sound in some aspects. Some of the dialogue, like the ADR, is not so great. But I was just thinking, that's when I was watching it last night. Some of the ADR is so bad that it actually helps make it creepier. And maybe that's just me. I don't know. But see this movie. Whenever you have time, it's absolutely amazing. I'm going to give a shout out to my friend Andrew, who reintroduced me to this movie. I saw it. I think I don't remember. I saw it when I was little. I knew of it. But I saw it again after college, and I knew I recognized a lot of it, and I was like, damn, this is good. This is so good. It's just very, yeah. Shut up? Sure. I'll move on. Number 8 is a movie. How are you guys doing, by the way? What are you up to? Just chillaxing? Is this boring? Are you having fun? Do you like hearing me ramble? Are you concerned about my rambling? Do you feel that first of all, am I annoying? Because I don't want to be annoying. I want to be fun. I want to keep it light. I want to seem like I'm laid back. Is my knowledge of this stuff alarming to you? Which, if it is, that's just too bad. I'm sorry. Thirdly, are we on number 3? I don't have one. Just keep listening. Number 8 is a movie that some people... So I will say, there's one guy I love. There's a podcast on YouTube called The Slaughtered Lamb, and I love these guys, Darren and Frank. I listen to I watch every one of their episodes, but Frank does not like this movie, 1978's Dawn of the Dead, directed by George A. Romero, which I think is the 8th greatest horror movie ever made. And it's weird because every time I watch it, I can see why people don't like it. I can see the kind of the criticisms of the makeup. The makeup in places looks cheap. It looks like they just kind of put some light blue paint on some people's faces. The acting isn't fantastic. The blood doesn't look great. It's just kind of like the blood is very bright red. In some places, So I can understand. This is one of those things where I think people don't understand when you gosh, how do I... This is really digging into a deep thing here. When you see things for what they are and appreciate them, you see something more than what is there. You can tell what they were trying to do, and you appreciate it for what they did, which isn't the best, but for what they did and for the time they did it in and for the resources they had, they completely knocked it out of the park, and it's mind-blowing what they did. And that's how I feel about Dawn of the Dead. Because, and here's the other thing, I put myself in their shoes. I put myself in George A. Romero's shoes, and I've seen documentaries about him. There's one called Birth of the Living Dead, which is how, he got Night of the Living Dead off the ground. And there's another one that's on Tubi that is so good. Anyway, I put myself in their shoes and I try to think about like corralling this team of like makeup people and costuming people and people trying to get like a location, like a mall, like an abandoned mall, and like getting, you know, the special effects people together. And like you're doing all this stuff, getting all the extras together, and like it's none of that seems easy to do at all. And for like whatever the budget was, which was probably not enough at all. And what they pulled off for this movie, this 2-hour just like roller coaster of zombie mayhem, is just so unbelievable what they pulled off. Like it's a, you know, I can understand like people who don't like it, but at the same time it's like this is such a piece of like just punk rock art. It just kicks ass, you know? It's like a 2-hour just punk rock video of just guns firing and blood, you know. It's so cool. I love it. So yes, that is number 8. Number 7 is not so punk rock. And you know, I have some. I don't want to put it on the list. It's unfortunate it's on the list for some reasons. But it is Rosemary's Baby from 1968, directed by Roman Polanski. So I'll start by saying that Roman Polanski is not a great human being. I'm just going to, you know what? He's kind of a jerk. I'm just going to say he's a jerk. If you read up about him. But unfortunately, Rosemary's Baby happens to be one of the most effective, realistic, and frightening, and kind of relatable horror movies ever made. The dialogue is very snappy and savvy, and the performances are very real, and Mia Farrow is so real. And for 1968, this had to have been, I don't know if was she nominated for an Oscar for this? I should know that. I'm gonna look it up. I think she had to have been nominated, because this is like one of the best female performances of all time. It doesn't. I don't want to take up your time by not rating. Yeah, I don't know. But this is essentially about a woman who is being kind of, I mean, I guess this isn't a spoiler. I mean, it's from 1968. So, I mean, she's pregnant with Satan's baby. You knew that, right? Did I just ruin this for you? I don't think I did. I hope not. But anyway, Rosemary's Baby is actually Satan's baby. You know, and she's having difficulties with the pregnancy, and things with her husband are a little rocky and suspicious, and yeah, lots of weird things going on that kind of come to a kind of insane, like, surreal climax that is like weirdly funny. Like, there's something, it's so absurd, like you like want to laugh at it, but at the same time it's just so like horrific. And I have to assume that Ari Aster was inspired by this film when he was making Midsummer, or Midsommar. Some people say Midsommar. I feel like it's Midsummer, and stop trying to be fancy, Mr. Fancy Midsommar. but it's so just weird, this movie. And you really get caught up in the story. It's a long movie. It's like 2.5 hours long, but I don't feel that you feel the 2.5 hours at all. I feel like it goes by very quickly. For the time that it came out, it's like some people don't like older movies, especially older movies that are long movies, and I don't feel like this has those. This isn't that type of movie at all. I feel like it's a very brisk, it's a very brisk, wholesome family film. No. Yeah, but check out Rosemary's Baby if you haven't seen it. It's just like I said, what this list is just, like pieces of art. This, it's just, unfortunately, the director is a big knucklehead. All right, number 6. Is... And I feel like as we get through the list here, I'm not expecting to really shock any of you with this list. So I don't think any of you will be surprised as we get, we're on number 6. As we get closer to 1, there's not going to be anything that like blows your mind. So maybe there's a couple surprises on here. I definitely think there might be a couple people who are surprised by what is not on this list, and I think I can talk about why there are obvious ones that are glaringly not on the list that probably should be, because I think there's probably going to be some of you that don't agree with this list, and I want to hear from you. I want to hear... Yeah, I do. I want to hear, like, what do you think, not your favorites, like, not your comfy, cozy, watch them anytime ones, but what do you think are the 13 greatest horror movies ever made? Like, just in terms of the artistic, like, this is an amazing film, that's still scary, it's still effective. Like, I want to know that. I think I would love to read, I think I would love to read it. I would love to read, like, what you think. Okay, moving on. Sorry. Number 6. This is John from Horror Dads. You'll be happy. This one's for you, but I mean, it's for me. This is what I genuinely feel because I love it. I've seen it a million times. John Carpenter's The Thing from 1982 is just the most... it's just the most kick-ass rock and roll horror movie. Let me look at the rest of the list here. Is this the most kick-ass rock and roll horror movie? I think it is. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's just so badass. Kurt Russell's a badass in this movie. Keith David's a badass. John Carpenter's a badass, man. He writes his own music. Not in this one. But this cast is so fantastic. The makeup and special effects are... God, I mean, this is like probably up there with Jurassic Park and Terminator 2. I mean, this is a top 5 special effects movie. And, what else do you want to know about it? I assume if you're listening to this, you've seen it. So, it is also a remake of an older movie that I think this is better than that one. And I should say I think Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the remake of that, is better than the original one. I think the remake of The Fly with Jeff Goldblum is better than the Vincent Price one. And I think... Yeah, I don't think you'll see remakes of horror movies like these ones again. Trying to think of other horror remakes that were like so above and beyond better than the originals, I guess Rob Zombie's Halloween, maybe. I'm kidding. Everybody calm down. Moving on to number 5. And maybe I won't talk as much through these ones because, we're getting really obvious and I don't know how much you want to hear me blabber on about them. But number 5 is going to be a little movie that's in black and white Is this the only black and white film? No, it's not. Spoiler alert, this is not the only black and white movie on the list. But number 5 is Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho from 1960. This is based on a novel by Robert Bloch. I've read the novel. It's great. This movie is better than the novel. I know Stephen King cites Robert Bloch as one of his biggest inspirations as far as horror writing. I know he cites Richard Matheson as well, but yeah, this book's good, but like this, it's one of the best horror movies ever. I think this started the slasher subgenre. This started, I think this is the very first, like, very commercially successful, like, mainstream big horror movie that brought horror, like, that made horror acceptable as a genre that wasn't just for, like, weird people. Like, this is a horror movie. Like, if your grandparents don't like horror movies and they look down on them, they've seen Psycho and they probably like Psycho. You know what I mean? So this is one of those, like, it like, this broke kind of barriers and made everybody realize that horror is a legitimate art, a legitimate genre for art. And I think it really, not since, I'm trying to think of the obvious ones that came before it. I mean, like the Universal horror monster movies, like Dracula and Frankenstein and Wolfman and Invisible Man. And then, before that you have like Nosferatu. I have to think the impact that this movie had, it had to have been like the biggest horror movie of the time since those other movies. So, and it's still very unsettling to watch. I mean, the shower scene is not easy to watch, and this came out 1960. God, I have to do math right now. This was 40. This was 62 years ago. I did it. 63 years ago. I did it. And it's so, it's just, the performances are fantastic. The story, the structure of the story, it takes a left turn out of nowhere, like a third of the way into the movie, which movies just did not did. Movies did not do that at the time. Yeah, it's just a darn good movie. I think you should see it if you haven't. Moving on to number 4, if I may. This movie is a horror movie. My wife tells me that I mumble a lot, and I probably have done it today, and I apologize if I have. But sometimes when I say horror, I get a little bit of a mumble mouth, and I'll say it quickly, and I'll just say whore, and it sounds like I'm saying whore. So then I have to try to enunciate my words better, and so I have to say horror, and it turns into this thing. So I'll say in front of my friends, I'll go like, "Hey, does anyone want to watch a horror movie tonight?" Anywho, this next horror movie is a 1973 film directed by William Friedkin, and it is called The Exorcist. This family drama is, you've heard of this movie. You've heard about the people getting sick in the theater. You've heard about, the lines around the block waiting to get in, people having panic attacks. I think people had heart attacks in the theater watching this movie. My grandpa saw this movie and was very unsettled and had to walk out of the theater when he saw this movie. The impact that this had, holy moly. I've never said holy moly in my life. I don't know why I just said it. But also, it's just a fantastic work of art. It's still damn scary. You know, when you're like I saw this movie when I was in high school. I want to say a freshman. So I would have been, 14 or 15. And when you're 15, you know, you want to see what the scariest movie of all time is. And everybody says The Exorcist. And so I watched it. I saw it on VHS. I'm like, this is stupid. It's not even scary. Her head turns around. It looks fake. And I feel like that's what everybody did when they were little kids. When they saw, you know, like Friday the 13th, they thought they were being really edgy and cool about it. It's like you could tell they're just rocking the bed from underneath. It's not even really rocking. And that was kind of my attitude about it. And now that I'm an older person, I'm 35 now. For some reason, I don't know if it's because I just appreciate the artistry of it more. I don't try to have an attitude about stuff when I watch it. I'm not, I don't know. I don't try to convince myself that I'm going to like or not like something before I watch it. I try to watch everything objectively and not kind of assume what my, you know, whatever. So now I watch it now and it terrifies me. I think it's absolutely horrific. I appreciate it for the score. I appreciate the directing, the lighting, you know, all that stuff. And when you appreciate that stuff more, you understand the atmosphere and like the mood of what they're going for, and all of a sudden you can put yourself in the character's shoes because you understand the tone of what they're doing, and not just like the I think I mentioned this in the last episode. You're not seeing what's on the surface. You're seeing all the stuff that went into what you're seeing. So there's a little bit of work that you have to do where your mind has to go into the screen and think about it. And same with a book. It's not just reading the words on a page. You have to do a little bit of work too, or, you know. So you don't do that when you're in high school. You're just looking at the thing and you're like, it's pea soup. It looks, you know. So, So a lot of movies I've seen all these horror movies, you know. I've seen thousands of them, dude. I've seen so many. And I don't know, there's a lot of them. I'm watching them again. You know, I watched them in the past like 10 years, and then I watch them again. And as I get older and I watch them again and again, I see them in different ways, and they mean something more to me than they did before. You know, or I interpreted them a completely different way because I have, like, you know, new perspectives on life, and I look at things in a different way. And, you know, this is one of those movies where I'm like, I really understand the hype. I get it. I really get it. And people who say, it's like when people say that the Beatles are overrated. It's like, shut up, dude. No, it's like they were that good. You weren't there. Like, they're that good. They're, you know, like, I get it. I get what you're saying. You listen to She Loves You and you're just kind of like, you know, I don't get it, but, you know, it's just, this is one of the best horror movies of all time, and I get it. I'm getting older, and I'm sure when I'm 50 or when I'm 60 and I appreciate the artistry of this stuff even more, I'm gonna be like, this is number one. I don't know why back in 2023 I put it at number 4. I was a big idiot, you know. I don't know. Or maybe I'll do the complete opposite. Maybe I'll be like, why wasn't Killjoy at number 4? Maybe my tastes will go the wrong way. Okay, number 3, guys. Are we having a good time? Is everybody relaxed? What are you doing right now? Are you eating dinner? Are you, I don't know. Do you not want to tell me what you're doing? It's okay if you don't want to tell me. Maybe I don't want to know. Okay, number 3. This is a movie, and again, you know what? Everything I just said about The Exorcist applies to this one, because you don't appreciate it when you're younger. There's things about it that freak you out. You're trying to be Mr. Big Shot and not be scared. But this movie did affect me when I watched it, and it still affects me to this day. And it's not just, for the money they had. You've read about this movie. You know all the things that went on. Halloween, 1978. John Carpenter. This is the second John Carpenter film that has made the list. So I think, let's see here. For those keeping track, maybe I'll do a rundown of the list when we're done. Just kind of see the stats here. Yeah, we'll give that a try. We'll see. Okay, Halloween is number 3. I think this movie owes a lot, first of all, to Black Christmas. I think that's undeniable. I think there may be that might be a spicy take, and I'm willing to discuss it. But I also think this owes something to Psycho. But I think this movie did it better than those two, which is why I have it at number 3. This took those two things, and this took it full rock and roll. He's wearing a mask. The other two didn't wear masks, Norman Bates or Billy. The music is synth. Everything is just has an attitude. It is, the scares, the jump scares. It's not even, like, John Carpenter's music is so awesome. And, it's just a fantastic movie. I still think it's the best one in the series. There are 13 of them now in the series. I still think it's the best one. At some point, I'd like to do a deep dive on the entire series and just kind of talk about each one and kind of how I rank them. I'd like to do that on a couple series, actually, if anyone would be interested in that. But, the opening title sequence of this, everything is just cool. Jamie Lee Curtis's first major role. God, Donald Pleasance is awesome in this. Just good characters, interesting characters. It kind of didn't necessarily start the final girl trope. I think it made it more mainstream. It's what kind of, this wasn't the first to do it. I mean, you had Black Christmas, but I think this was, other movies started copying this. Not copy, but we can say copy. It's fine. This is another one of those trendsetters that owes a lot to other trendsetters, and I think you can kind of see a common thread of where horror goes. You kind of see Psycho, and then from there, the next one that Psycho inspires, I would say probably Texas Chainsaw, and that kind of inspires Black Christmas, and then that inspires Halloween, and then you have Friday the 13th, and then Nightmare on Elm Street, and then Child's, you can kind of see the thread of what inspires what, and you got everything in between there too, but then that leads to Scream, and that leads, I could be wrong, I don't know if that's up for debate. That's how I feel things progressed in terms of, everything kind of leads back to Psycho with the slasher subgenre. But yeah, I could talk for hours about Halloween, but you know why it's awesome, So I will move on to number 2. And this is a poster that I have in my basement. I've read this novel. This novel is fantastic. There's strong opinions about this film from the person who wrote the novel. And this is The Shining from 1980. It's actually called, on some posters, Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. And it's not called Stephen King's The Shining. Stanley Kubrick is one of the best directors of all time. Maybe the best director who ever lived. I feel like today, as of right now, I'm going to say he's probably the best director who ever lived. But he took Stephen King's novel and just did not adapt even probably 20% of it into this movie. So I understand that he did not adapt the book. I get that. I've read the book, and I've seen there was a TV miniseries, and I think it was 1997 with Steven Weber that Stephen King wrote. He wrote the screenplay for it, and Mick Garris directed it. I actually like that TV miniseries. I do like that. So you can like both. I'm allowed to like both. But The Shining, Stanley Kubrick's 1980 film, is its own animal that I'm okay looking at separately to the novel. I think it's okay to look at it as its own singular work of art. Because it is a work of art. It's undeniable. Like, you can't watch it. I mean, even if you love the book, I think it's totally fine to say how good this movie is. The performances, Shelley Duvall is so convincing in her fear, and there's stories about this movie that it's not great to read. Stanley Kubrick's behavior on set towards Shelley Duvall. I guess he was very mean to her and kind of, got her in a place, like, verbally and emotionally, where she actually was, like, in hysterics and looked like, and felt like on the verge of a nervous breakdown because of how he was, berating her and stuff. And that's really unfortunate. And, it's one of those things like Rosemary's Baby that it's hard, I'm not articulate enough to, speak about it one way or the other, but, the movie is a work of art, and, it's something that I have, it's one of those movies, like anything that you have in your life that you have a connection to and like a relationship with, that is always going to be, that's always going to have like a tattoo on your brain that I can't just not have the movie. You know what I mean? And I think it is like one of the most important, groundbreaking, just towering achievements of the genre, and Kubrick was one of those guys, like a Scorsese or a Hitchcock, or, he's just one of the best. And yeah, pretty good movie, guys, I would say. So that was number 2. That was The Shining. So you're probably wondering what number 1 is. And I'll tell you. And I bet you don't know what it is. I'll let you guess for a little bit. But while you're guessing, I do have 3 honorable mentions that I wanted to share. First honorable mention, and I said this is a top 13. So if you want to call this a top 16, you can, because these are 3 honorable mentions, but it's top 13. But first honorable mention, The Wicker Man, the original Wicker Man from 1973, directed by Robin Hardy. This movie scares the shit out of me. I actually just saw it for the first time about 8 or 9 months ago. And again, it's because I'm older now and I look at movies in a different way. And plus being a writer, I look at it from that standpoint, and like I look at like social commentary and like what are the things that it's saying and stuff. And the original Wicker Man from 1973, not the Nicolas Cage movie from 2006. But this original one really actually scared the hell out of me. Again, it reminded me, I have to assume that Ari Aster with this one as well, he was inspired by this one when he was making Midsummer. Because there's something so absurdly, like it's not a comedy, but it's just so freaky and weird that you have no other option to just laugh at the fact that of how scared you are. So that's my first honorable mention. You have to see that movie. I think it is a unbelievable masterpiece of the genre. Next honorable mention is Candyman from 1992, directed by Bernard Rose. This has Tony Todd as Candyman, who is just absolutely perfect in the role, and it has Virginia Madsen. And I've read in recent years that they had an amazing time making this movie. They had fun, and they're very cool to their fans, and I love that about them. But also, the movie is amazing. The score is amazing. The movie is like a work of art. The story is unique. The subject matter is tough. It's got really important commentary. It's thought-provoking. There's things to, I think, discuss in that movie. And stuff that's not, like, easy to see and hear about. And there's stuff that bleeds over into our real world that aren't, it's not easy to read about. And, there's a lot of truth to the movie. So, yeah, it's a great film. And then last honorable mention is The Silence of the Lambs, 1991, directed by Jonathan Demme. You've seen this, right? Anthony Hopkins, Jodie Foster. This is a good one. This is one of my favorite movies of all time, not just horror, just in general. One of the, like, the dialogue's amazing, the sequences, the suspense, the one of the main climax scenes. It has it's just like 3 movies in one. It feels like there's one big kind of climax, and then it goes into this other big kind of, there's like 2 threads going on at once, and it's just awesome. So that's a pretty good one. So those are my honorable mentions. So if you want to hear the list before we get to number 1, have you guessed what it is yet? Are you totally over this? All right. So 3 honorable mentions: Wicker Man, Candyman, Silence of the Lambs. Number 13, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 1978. The Fly, 1986. An American Werewolf in London, 1981. Pardon me. Black Christmas, 1974. The 2006 remake's pretty good, but don't see the 2019 one. Don't see that, please. Okay, that was number 10. Number 9 is Suspiria. I have not seen the remake of that. I need to. Number 8 is Dawn of the Dead, 1978, George A. Romero. Love the remake of that. Zack Snyder, great movie. Number 7 is Rosemary's Baby, 1968. Number 6 is The Thing, 1982, John Carpenter. Number 5 is Psycho, 1960, Alfred Hitchcock. I actually like that remake by Gus Van Sant from 1998 with Vince Vaughn. Anybody ever seen that? I actually like that movie. I had that on VHS. I actually, this is going to sound insane. I saw that one before I saw the original one when I was little. Yeah. And I liked it. So then I saw the original one. I was like, well, this is even better. I mean, like, what are we even doing here? So number 5 is Psycho. Number 4 is The Exorcist, 1973, William Friedkin. Number 3 is Halloween, 1978, John Carpenter. Number 2 is The Shining, 1980, Stanley Kubrick. All right. Man, I feel like we went on a journey here, guys, didn't we? All right, so I will tell you. Let me type it in first so we can talk about it. Let's see. I feel like some of you know and some of you are like, what is it? All right, so drum roll. Number 1 is Killjoy, 2000. This film is about a demon clown. You can see this on Tubi. It is no, I'm just kidding. It is Night of the Living Dead, 1968, directed by George A. Romero. I'm actually going to look up the two. I don't know why I just made that sound when I said up. I was like, up. Sorry. The George A. Romero documentary is about this film because I think they are worth watching. I think they're excellent. Let me see. But yeah, I think this is the greatest horror movie ever made in the history of human people. And I have my reasons. I can dive into them. I think, first of all, it's just an inspiration to any young filmmakers out there to see what you can do with not a lot. You know, if you have a dream out there and, you know, you're not sure if it's worth doing, or, you know, take a look at that movie and see, you know, let yourself be proven wrong as you watch that movie. And, you know, it's just suspenseful. You know, it was a huge deal when it came out. The social commentary, I don't have to get into like the main actor, Dwayne Jones, who plays Ben, just the brilliance of his performance and just you know, the meaning of his character, and, you know, just like the actual, like what it's saying about, you know, what the zombies represent. And you know, there's just so much going on, and there's so little that went into it monetarily, but so much that went into it as far as like heart and soul and sweat, and, you know, and you can see it. You can see it on every second of that movie. You can see all that stuff. And it actually does have an effect, like in terms of, like it actually is very effective. It is a scary movie. The score makes it scary. You know, just like Romero's directing, it's just, you know. But yeah, there are two documentaries I think you should check out about the making of Night of the Living Dead. And they are Birth of the Living Dead, that came out in 2013. That's on Tubi, as well as Reflections on the Living Dead. That came out in 1993. But both of them kind of chronicle just the financing, you know, where they were in their lives at the time. You know, what, you know, the early stages of what they were going to do, you know, the house that they were looking at that ended up, you know, they ended up filming in. And, you know, there was another house that they had looked at, and just lots of fascinating stuff to read about, that, you know, and they had no idea. I think one of them did know that, you know, they were making something special. You know, it was they're making something unusual in terms of, you can see on the set that, the zombies look a certain way, and that the gore effects that they're using is stuff that, wasn't necessarily, mainstream at the time. But, they had no idea that it was going to be, that people would even know about it now in 2023. They probably had no clue, let alone that it would have such an impact when it came out at the time. So, it just shows, who knows, who knows what you're going to do. So for that reason, I think it's incredibly inspiring, but it's just a good movie, it's 90 minutes. It's a short movie. It looks interesting. The black and white looks awesome. The acting is good for its time. The score is creepy, and the opening in the graveyard, everything is very unique. Yeah, that's it. That's the list. I do want to hear. I do want to see your lists. What you think are the 13 greatest horror movies of all time. And you can put honorable mentions in there as well. I was making the list, and I had, I was writing down. I was really thinking about it, and I had other ones on the list because I'm sure you're like, where's Friday the 13th? Where's, Nightmare on Elm Street? And those are on my list of greatest horror movies ever made. And if you expanded this list just a little bit more, they're on there. So I do have a list. And this is not in order. I'm gonna I'll give you like a little bonus list here. So I gave you 13, then I gave you 3 honorable mentions, so that's 16. So I was thinking like I'll take a list of 31. So if I gave you like the 31, what I believe are the 31 greatest horror movies of all time, and I gave you 1 through 16 in order. So if I wanted to give you the rest to 31, so 17 through 31. So if you wanted to have like the greatest October ever, where you just knocked your socks off with the best horror that's ever been made, I think these are the 31. So I can give you 17 through 31. This is all my opinion, by the way. For God's sakes, please. This is in no order because I just can't. I mean, I can't put them in order because it's like just too many. All right, so 17 to 31 in order. When a Stranger Calls, the original one. The Omen, the original one. Jaws. Poltergeist, the original one. Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. I think everybody needs to see that. The Birds, that's another Hitchcock. The Evil Dead, Sam Raimi. I love Sam Raimi. I really wanted to put that on the top 13, in fact. I really wanted to put The Evil Dead in the top 13. I really wanted to put When a Stranger Calls in the top 13. The problem with When a Stranger Calls is that I think a lot of people will agree that the first 20 minutes are better than the rest of the film. And I think John from Horror Dads had said that too. I think he was the first to tell me that. And that's true, but I do think the whole movie is excellent. Anyway, I'm rambling. Whatever Happened to Baby Jane? The Birds, Evil Dead. Scream, I was teetering on putting that in the top 13, but ultimately I did not. But I think that's another one of those trendsetter movies that honor the movies before it. So yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I do like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I strangely feel like the 2003... This is weird. I think the 2003 remake is better than the original. But I would not put it on this list. I think the original is still one of the best horror movies of all time. The original Amityville Horror, with James Brolin and Margot Kidder. The original Alien from Ridley Scott. Clive Barker's Hellraiser, the original one. And then the first Child's Play. So that would be the rest of your 31. If you wanted to have the best October of your life. And I'm saying that in terms of like the artsy, fartsy, like, you know, if you enjoy the art of like Child's Play, for instance, like the puppetry and the animatronics, you know, and Hellraiser, like the makeup and the effects, and Alien, the effects, and, you know, cinematography, and so I think in terms of like cinema and stuff, like those are the 31. These are the 31 that, like, you know, are the best that the genre has to offer. You know, with my this is not like expertise or anything. This is just like my tastes. You know, because you know, I just kind of you know, I'm on Instagram and I have my Discord, which you're welcome to join, whoever you are out there, and you know, I have my thing that I wrote, and I'm finishing up my novel. I'm going to put up my novel in a couple months. It's going to be on Amazon, and I'll talk about that more in the coming weeks. But, you know, I want you to get to know me. I don't want to look like some weird guy who just writes messed up stuff. So, yeah, those are what I believe to be the greatest horror movies ever made. I'd love to hear your thoughts, whether you agree or disagree, and I'd love to hear feedback. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this second kind of test run attempt at, you know, we're here to have fun, guys. Okay, I'm here to have fun. You know, I'm going to keep it professional, and, you know, I'll talk about my writing and give updates, and, you know, we're just going to keep it laid back. We're just hanging out, man. You know? We're not, I'm not going to be like, we're not trying to sponsor anything. I mean, except my own work, like I did earlier, but, you know, if this helps get some more readers, you know, to check out my work, that's awesome. And, you know, I'd love to get to know some of you who've read it, and, you know, just if you want to hop in the Discord and just hang out and talk about horror movies and shit, and just you know, whatever. This sounds like I'm very lonely, doesn't it? It's like, I'm just doing this because I want friends. That's no, but thank you for listening, guys. I hope this was fun. And let me know. I still have, you know, ideas for future episodes. I do want to dive into dolls and clowns. I want to do deep dives on those. I just want to do more research on them, and make sure that, you know, I'm speaking articulately with enough research to actually, you know, give you good content. And listen to me. It sounds like I'm taking this seriously. But yeah, more to come. I hope you had fun, and have a good night, guys.